Welcome back to my series on being an applied statistician. Today we're going to deal with the Spearman Rank order correlation, which is a correlation for ordinal data. Let's start as we always do. Let's go to the statistical test decision tree. Okay, so let's see where we are. So we're talking about a correlation, so we're talking about a relationship or an association. And in a previous video, we dealt with the Pearson correlation, which is for interval data, which is normally distributed. In this case, though, we're going to deal with what happens when you have ordinal data or you have interval data, which is not normally distributed. And the test you use is the Spearman correlation. So if you like, it's like the Pearson correlation, except that it works with ordinal data and works with rank order. So when do we use a Spearman rank order correlation? Well, let's consider a research question. Is there a relationship between the number of years a student has studied English and their ability to write an essay using a holistic ordinal scale? So in this case, we have two variables, both of which are ordinal variables, the years of study and the ability to write an essay, in this case evaluated using a holistic ordinal scale. So let's go through our question analysis. Do I have a grouping variable? No, I don't have a grouping variable because I have one group, the same students are doing both variables. Number of groups is 1. What are my outcome variables? Well, I have two outcome variables, years of English study and level of ability, with 1 equaling low ability and 5 equaling high ability. Both of these variables, we're going to consider them to be ordinal variables, both years of study and ability level. So what we need is a test that tests the relationship between two ordinal variables. So let's take a look at a schematic representation. You will note that this is very similar to the Pearson correlation. The main difference is that we have a different test in the middle. And the reason for that is that we have a measure which is an ordinal measure. And we're comparing between measure 1 and measure 2, years of study and ability to write an essay, as we have in our particular example. So what the Spearman rank order correlation tests, it tests the rank order of these two and looks at the relationship between them. So I had this slide in my Pearson correlation video, but in case you didn't see that video, let me just go over this. So a basic understanding of a correlation is that you have two scores that co-vary in the sense that they are systematically related. And we have three types of possible relationship. No relationship, where it's all jumbled together. A positive relationship, which means when one is high, the other is high, and a negative relationship, which means one is high and one is low. For example, do we expect the years of study to translate? So the more years of study you have, do we expect that to translate into higher ability? I think we do. I think that's a basic assumption of education, that it works. Therefore, in this particular case of the question we're dealing with, we actually have a hypothesis which involves a positive relationship between one measure and the other. I've shown this slide as well in the Pearson correlation video. This is just how you interpret the Spearman, and you interpret it in the same way. The Spearman correlation goes from -1 to +1. The closer you are to minus or +1, the stronger the relationship. Of course, minus means a negative relationship, plus means a positive. And we have various levels here. 0.2 is very weak, 0.4 weak, 0.6 moderate, 0.8 strong, and 1 very, very strong. So when can you use the test? Well, first of all, you use the test if you want to look about a systematic relationship, a systematic association between two variables. At least one of the variables is ordinal. So if you have an ordinal and interval variable, you should use a Spearman rank and not a Pearson. So if one of the variables is ordinal, and definitely if both of the variables are ordinal, you should use a Spearman rank order. There is a third condition under which you might use the Spearman rank order. Let's say you have interval data and you're planning on doing a Pearson, but you do a descriptive analysis of the variable and you find that one of them or both of them are not normally distributed, then once again you would use the Spearman rank correlation. Our hypotheses are the same as the Pearson correlation. Basically, we have a null hypothesis that there is no systematic relationship between the two variables. And then we have a series of alternative hypotheses that there's a systematic relationship, that there is a systematic relationship between the variables, that this relationship is positive, or that this relationship is negative. And with that, I think we should go over to the Spearman rank order correlation in JAMOVI. So as you can see, I've opened up JAMOVI and I've opened up the data set. So let's see what I've got for my two variables. I have years of study and I have writing ability on a scale from 1 to 5. And I have 20 participants in each of these two groups. So conducting the Spearman correlation analysis is actually very simple and very close to what we see in the Pearson. So let's go to regression, correlation matrix, and that brings up this dialog box. Before we move over the variables, we don't want a Pearson. We want a Spearman. We already know that these variables are ordinal, so our Pearson is inappropriate. We do want to report significance. We do want to flag it, which means put an asterisk next to it. We do need the number of participants, the N, because we report it. And then for hypotheses, in this particular case, we do think that there is a positive relationship between years of study and writing ability. In other words, the more years you study, the better your writing ability will be. So let's hit on a positively correlated hypothesis. Now let's move over our variables, years of study, writing ability. And as you can see, what comes up here is a matrix, years of study and writing ability. If we look at the Spearman row, that's the Spearman rank order, it's 0.855, highly significant. You can see through the three asterisks. The p-value is 0.001, very high level of significance at n equals 20. In other words, what we see here is a positive relationship in which more years of writing, more years of study translates into higher ability to write an essay. With that, the one thing that is left to do is to report this particular test. Reporting this test is relatively easy and is very similar to the reporting of the Pearson R correlation. Let me first read through the language and then show you where the information actually is. There was a significant, strong, positive Spearman rank order correlation between the years that a student has studied English and their ability to write an essay measured on a holistic rubric. We report the Spearman row, which is 0.85 in this case. We report the number of participants, which in this case is 20, and we report the significance level. You can see with the arrows where this information appears in the JAMOVI data output. And the one last thing I would say about this is because it's 855, we can say that this is strong. Because it's a positive number, we can say it's a positive association. So the first sentence, which says a significant, strong, positive Spearman rank order correlation, is basically a summary of the Spearman row and the peer value. I hope this video has been useful to you. As always, I hope this helps you further your research, and I look forward to seeing you in our next video.